Assalamu alaikum. My name is Bashir Khan.
Don't look over it. Yeah, I'm tired of you use that one.
Oh, use that one.
I can't. This one. But no, you don't got look.
Oh, no, look. Okay.
Just
All right.
talk.
Just talk.
All right, so I started over.
No, just talk.
Yeah, just talk.
We just kick it.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about.
No, we just kick it.
You don't know what I'm saying. You hear it talk like.
Why can't she say what she
I mean, she can. I was just
Y'all
saying.
listen to my no.
Yeah,
You know
she
what?
got
Nah.
everything going
Right.
on.
This year and every year, starting January 1st, I'm going to be doing 3 challenges. I'm going to do the penny challenge, the dollar challenge, and the $5 challenge. So I will explain to you how I've done it in the past. So if you start out on the January 1st with the penny challenge, the first day you put 1 penny to the side. I usually use a container. Then second day of the year, you put 2 pennies. The third day of the year, 3 pennies. And it just coincides with whichever day of the year that it is. So if it's the 100th day, then it's $1. If it's the last day of the year, that's $3.65. That's $3.65. Now nobody's walking around with 365 pennies in their pocket. So yes, it could be however you get to the $3.65. But if you did the penny challenge at the end of the year, you would have $667 minimum, because most people are putting more in. So how I did it this year is I'm going to do it differently, where I just do the penny challenge at the end of the week, because when it gets to February 1st, somebody's always like, okay, I start back at the penny. I'm like, no, it's the 29th. So it's 29 pennies, you know. So I just broke it down to the weeks, so to keep aligned with the dollar challenge and the $5 challenge. But if you did this one challenge, again, I think this is good for children, it would give you $667 minimum. Now, this particular challenge, I used this one for last year when I went to Cartagena, Colombia. I saved a little bit more, but my trip to Cartagena was $950 for 2 people. That was airfare and Airbnb. So, yeah.
That was, you said that was everything?
Mm-hmm.
And the rooms and everything?
Yes. So I used this challenge for that, and it was like $938 for me to go to Colombia for 5 days. I went.
So you keep like multiple challenges going.
Yeah, I do all 3 myself.
All 3.
Yes. But I started originally 15 years ago, I started with just the penny challenge. And I didn't sit down and say, oh, I'm going to do the penny challenge. What happened was I had a jar and I just started throwing my coins in it. And one day my oldest daughter wasn't home. My oldest daughter was home and she had made the honor roll. So I just was like, okay, let's go to the bank and cash the coins in. And we did, and it was almost $700. But I had promised her that she could have the coins, and I was mad because I had no idea it was $700. You know. So, but we opened up her first bank account with that money, and I've been doing the challenge since then. And I think maybe she was in the 2nd or 3rd grade at that time. So I've always done these, and I've always used it to whatever it was. School clothes shopping. I didn't have it where I started at the beginning of the year and ended at the end of the year. Once I found it online later in the later years, I was like, oh, okay, people are doing it at the beginning of the year. So then I just was like, I'm going to start doing it at the beginning of the year. So this is the penny challenge. The second challenge that I do is the Saving is Sexy 52-week challenge. And this one is you save $1 to coincide with the week. So again, I start out on the first Friday of the year. So it's $1. And then you take the second week, $2. The third week, $3, fourth, so forth. So this week was the 51st, so it's $51 that you would put in. But this challenge gives you $13.78. I did this challenge, and I do I do it differently too. And I show people on Facebook how to just stay with according to what the chart says. But personally, I do the first 20 weeks, I actually add $20. So if it's $1, I'm doing $21. If it's the second week, I'm doing $22. So I'm always ahead. I'm always past the $13.78 at the end of the year. But once I get to 20th week, I'm not balling that hard to be like, I'm going to keep adding 20. You know, sometime I am, but because I'm doing a $5 challenge, you know. But this challenge was $13.78, and I used the money from this challenge My dad passed away, and so I was saying to my mom, they had been together, I want to say 35 years. I was like, you have to live your life. My mom's 63, live your life. I said, I'm going to take you to get your passport, and I'm going to take you somewhere. So my mom had never been anywhere. So I took my mother to Aruba for 8 days, my husband and myself, my mom. So for $1,300 is what I paid for 8 days in Aruba.
Wait, your husband and your mom?
Yeah, we had a 2-bedroom, another Airbnb, 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, apartment, and it was nice. And it was $1,300, airfare and the Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
So it's small to me, but if this is too much, then I would say do the penny. I would say just try to save anything, because to not save is just ridiculous, you know? Try to do whatever it is that you can do. Then the third challenge that I do is the $5 challenge. And this is a similar concept, but this is $5, and then the second week is $10, the third week is $15. And this week, the 51st week, you had to save $255. So once you get past, I want to say it's like the 6th month of the year, then you're at $100, then it's $135, $140. It gradually increases, but like I said, now it's next week, the last week will be $260 that I would have had to save at the end of the year. So, but this challenge gives you $6,890. So this one is really big, and this one is what I used for my Africa trip. But I did not spend $6,800 for Africa. I went to Africa with a couple of my girlfriends, and it cost each of us $1,600. What I found is that I do use online search engines for looking for flights and stuff, but when I'm in the airport, I just go to the counter of who I want to use. And if I'm online and they say American Airlines, the flight is going to cost you $140, I just go to American Airlines. It has shown me that it's actually cheaper to go to the counter.
Yeah, everybody's saying.
Even though people say
go to the kiosk.
you can find it. Now, if I'm online and I find something really cheap that I feel like, okay, I'm getting a deal, then I'm not going to go to the airport. But usually, how I do all these challenges is January 2nd, I sit on a computer and whatever I saved is spent by the 3rd. Because I map out all my vacations for the year.
Okay.
I do it all at one time. Yeah. So when I go to the airport, I'm just going to pay for where I want to go. And I never know where I'm going. I based my travel this year on 45 saying shithole countries. So I tried to go everywhere where the brown people was this year.
Everywhere is a shithole.
You think about it. Only place I didn't make it to was Haiti. Yeah. But I'm going. Inshallah.
But you've been 4 this year.
Yes, right? Yes.
So what's the total all you use for those 4 trips?
$1,600, 13. That's 29. Then another, I say about $4,000.
They go 4 trips a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So do you think people? Because a lot of people think when I'm at the job, they think that traveling is expensive.
It's not.
I know.
It's
that's
really
like
not.
a big misconcept.
And I think if you plan it to where like you know where you're going and you have time. I spend more money traveling if I just say like, oh God, I want to go 2 weeks. I want to go here, because it's supply and demand, you know. But if you planning it out, you know, like inshallah this year from doing the money challenges, not with the money that I just saved, but the money that I had from last year. My plan was in August I was supposed to make Hajj, but my foot, I had an accident,
right.
so that's why I changed it around. But inshallah this year in August, I'll be making Hajj with my husband. So then I came up with Sisters Inc., which is my group of women. I'm like, how do I assist, and what do I know? I know that as a mom, to have my kids come and ask me for something, which is not a good trait, say no, never worked for me. I cry. If I tell my kids no, they know I'm a sucker. They know. They be like, oh yeah, mommy, tell mommy something good. She gonna get it for you, you know. So that's a bad trait. But yeah, so I just was like, Chrissy, she was doing her natural lotions and stuff. Then I had my girlfriend Aisha. You go to Aisha's house, she's always like, you want some tea? I'm like, you should package those teas. You'll find her just about every Muslim event. Spouts.
Mm-hmm.
She does the spouts. I had almost 50 women. I got brown baby cakes. She does positive images of brown girls. So my granddaughter turned 1. We had a brown baby cakes birthday party for her. My goal is every day to support a woman entrepreneur.
I see that. You put it on Facebook, you always putting up like links.
Every day. And then what does that do? Here's my calendar for, it's like coming full circle. So this is my calendar, and as I was telling CJ earlier, was that the first person up in my calendar is my daughter,
Right.
Carrots by Maliha. You know, I'm so proud of her. Like, we all should be proud of her, because I didn't do this by myself. It was a lady named Beverly Crippen who watched my children. I told you I worked a full-time job, part-time job, plus went to school. My children were always with Beverly Crippen. So the individuals that they are is based on, yes, my work ethic that they saw in me, and having a village help me raise my daughters, you know? And so this is Veronica Holland. She's Muslim. This is, I knew her. She was my neighbor. She lives in East Orange now, but she does paparazzi jewelry.
I see that too.
Yeah. Stephanie Harmon does this too in Atlantic City. In Jamil, right?
Yeah.
And KD's Crochet Collection, that was a young man's mom. Kitchen Do, she cuts my hair. I buy all her crochet items. I have so much. My husband's like, this is Stephanie Harmon. This is the Halal Najla Salon.
Right.
So you got a whole calendar.
This is all So I just
encouraging.
I just was sitting one day and was like, wait a minute. People always ask me, what week is this? What week is this in the calendar? How much should I have? So all the money amounts are pre-printed on the Fridays.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
all right. All makes sense. So now, what you did, you got the money challenge incorporated
onto the calendar.
Because I was gonna ask you that before.
Because every Friday.
I tried the money challenge. I'm gonna do it again now that you said.
Every Monday.
I tried it before.
Every Monday. Every Friday I come on Facebook and I post like how much you should be having.
Oh look, so you're gonna have to tag me.
Yeah,
because
I will.
When every time I tried it 3 years in a row. I always fall off because I forget.
No, we ain't gonna forget this
Yeah,
year.
you
Save
get
this
the calendar though. You get
I'm get the calendar.
And so this is Tosh DeWitt.
You gotta make a group.
Yeah, I have a group.
I ain't in your group.
Yeah, I'll put you in my group. It's called the 52-week challenge. It's on Facebook. And then this is Brown Baby Cakes. Like I said, this is my girlfriend. She would travel with her job and she never saw positive brown images on stuff. So she came up with her own Brown Baby Cakes. And this is Denise Scott. She does Tracy Lynn jewelry. And this is my cousin. I made that cake with her. You know. Yeah, ain't it good? It's pretty, yay. And this is Spouts.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So what happens, and this is me. So it's Bashir Khan, Sisters Inc., My Saving is Sexy, and then you know I make cakes. These classic desserts. So I'm bringing up the
cakes you be posting be yours?
Yeah.
No, I thought, what she had
You thought I was going to be though? That was not going to be able to do, right? So what happens is every month, the person who's featured, you actually can get a discount. If you buy the calendar, you can get a discount from them too. Saving is Sexy, right? So this is the mindset. And so this would make it 10 different families that have the same mindset that we have to get to the next level. And so everywhere I go, you know, I'm usually like, can I bring my girls with me? That's my goal, is to elevate us all to the next level. And not just me, all of us. It's those little things when you think someone's not paying attention. I could be in a restaurant, eat my meal with my husband, get the bill, and I'm only paying the taxes. The manager will come on and be like, Saving is Sexy. I'm following you in your group.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was in South America. I had my logo on my suitcase when I'm traveling. You know, I was sitting in there. Guy said, Bashira. I'm just
That be happening in the key.
Yeah. I'm like, right here. Yeah.
That be happening in her house. They be like, we see your group. And she like, who is you?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have to be mindful of your behavior all the time because someone is watching. You know what I mean? But I think now when we get back to communicating, entrepreneurship, and I can say like the women that I know, I can't say one time I called somebody and they weren't willing to share something, but that's your group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your group of people who you surround yourself with. You know, Malika, if I call Malika, how you do this or whatever, she's always forthcoming. Mona Tally, if something's heavy on me, I'll be like, Mona, tell me something, you know. Different women. Because we have more in common than we have, you know, just talking, you know, and being honest, you know. So Saving is Sexy, mental illness, I'm just going to try to bring awareness to that. In January, I'm on a committee that bringing the Women's March to Atlantic City. I'm on a committee for that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people I know that's kind of like not scared of you, like physically, but scared of you, huh?
Intimidated?
No, it's intimidated Bashir's political position and how she can talk and promote the stuff that you do. A lot of white folks, I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about them.
I know, I'm just saying, like they are.
I'm not worried about them. My things that I focus on that's heavy on me is mass incarceration. I'm concerned with not just black men, but if you look at the trend that's trending now, black women are getting arrested more.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at how they did the breakdown of our families years ago, and you know, separating us, like me too. I could be a proponent of that because I've always made more than my spouse. But I never took it as like, you know, I make more than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if my husband would want me to share this with anybody, but I just always try to be honest. When I lost my job, my husband was the one that said, do you. And so he allowed me, and not like puppet allowed me. He just was like, yeah, do you, babe, you all right or whatever. And I have always worked. That was the first time I ever got laid off in my life. Mm-hmm. So I was scared. But he was like, find out what you want to do. He supported me in my dream and my aspirations and everything. And the minute that I got my job that I have now, I came to him, I said, Mukmen. And he was like, yeah. I said, I got it. And he was like, what you got? I said, I got everything. I'm going to pay all the bills. And I did for 2 years. You know what I mean? And not because he couldn't handle it or whatever, but I just felt like, you know, he allowed me to be me, to stand in my truth, to foster me with my children, and he brought something into my life that was missing, and that was prayer.
Where you get that drive from to get you where you at now with all those
I don't know, but it's tiring. I don't know. You know, like I don't know.
Because you got all those licenses.
Yeah, but that came from somebody told me no. Somebody told me no. I came home from college and I took a job at the Claridge and I was making $6.07. And I was just sitting there one day and all the mechanics used to come up to the counter and talk to me. And I'd be like, what are they doing that they up here talking to me 6 of the 8 hours that they here? And it was like, oh, well, you know, I'm an electrician and I'm the plumber. I knew that's because I was their dispatcher. Mm-hmm. But God, I fell upon the book on how much they made. And I said, who make this? And the groundskeeper, he said, I make that. I'm like, Bill, you up here talking to me all the time. You make $15 an hour and I'm sitting here making $6 and I'm the one fielding all the calls and whatever. I said, oh no. And I went right home. And I got on back then it was web TV. Mm-hmm. I had a web TV. You remember web TV? Yeah. It was like a little keyboard. And I went on there and I put Black Seal license. And it was like AC, it was Atlantic Cape, it was Atlantic Community. No, it wasn't. Votech. It was Votech. Yeah, Votech. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Votech. And I went. The first class I took at Votech was plumbing. And I ain't tell nobody. So I was working like 7 to 3, get off work, go out there. I did plumbing. And then they was like, you should take the Black Seal. And I was like, okay. So I did. And that's when I was just, I had just took my Shahada. You know, so I kept going. And then the job became available for a groundskeeper. And I was like, I'm going to put in for it. And the guy was like, oh, Stuffy, you can't do that. And I was like, I can so do it. He said, well, you should have told me before. And I was like, well, I'm telling you now. I can do that. And like maybe 3 months later, another position became available. And I pulled this. I was like, you said the next time I can get that job. And he still wasn't going to give it to me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, listen. I said, you know, I went to school. I have my Black Seal license now. And I went to school for plumbing. and this was just a job to sweep up outside. So I was overqualified, you know. So he gave me the job, and I went from making $6.07 to $15. And this was in, I didn't have children then, so I had my first daughter in 1995. So this was like 92.
That was the booming era.
Yeah, 1992. And that first year outside sweeping, emptying the trash around the Claridge Casino, I made $58,000. And the previous year before that, I made only maybe about 12, if that. So you talking about my pay quadrupled?
So now you what? You in charge of?
So now I supervise at ACCC. Yeah. So I mean, I did that, and then the Claridge became Bally's, and when it became Bally's, they said the union guy, the business agent, he was like, Stuffy, I think you should take the apprenticeship. And I was scared to death, right? I'm like, oh man, because I was making, 58, maybe 68 by now, And he was like, no, I think you should take the apprenticeship. And I was like, He said, yes, listen to me. He said, your pay is going to decrease, right? So I went from $15 an hour. Maybe at this time it might have been 16, 17. It went down to 12, And now I have my 2 daughters. And I'm like, ooh, how am I going to do this, right? But I didn't respect money. I didn't know about money. No one was talking to me. And that's with even going to college to be an accountant. I still didn't get the concept of it. So in the end, I wound up seeing more money in my pocket because I no longer had to pay for childcare. I was paying $700 a month in childcare. So I was going to be back working 7 to 3. My kids were in daycare at a school, so they could do that while I was at work. And then at night, I said, wow, I had this opportunity for the apprenticeship. And what that did was every 6 months, I had to go to school for a different trade. I said, I owe this to myself that every time the test became available, I would take the test for the license. And that's what I did. Because you never have to go back and you just continue to pay the fee for the license, to renew it or whatever. It's not like you got to go back and take, whatever. So, the apprenticeship, it was almost 5 years. But what it did was every 6 months that I went, I had already took plumbing 1, so then I took plumbing 2. When I finished with that certification, I turned that in, I got $1 raise. So that $12 became $13. So by the time you finish your 4-year apprenticeship, you're making what the top person is making. So by the time I finished, I was making $28 an hour.
So you lost the game.
I lost the game, yes. And then I wanted to be a kitchen mechanic, and I picked the kitchens because the kitchen has all the trades in it. Electric, plumbing, HVAC, you can find all the trades in the kitchen. And but at the end of my apprenticeship, there was no kitchen mechanic position at Bally's. But Bally's was now Showboat. So Showboat was looking for a female plumber because they needed women to be able to go in the bathrooms in the middle of the night or when the casino was jumping, So I interviewed, they hired me, and I got that job. And I was a plumber at Showboat for, I want to say about 5 years. I did that. And then that's when the economy went down. And I got laid off right before Barack became president. And I will never forget this. Like, Allah is Akbar, right? So I got laid off, and the union rep said, Stephanie. I was like, oh man, he never called me Stephanie. He always was Stuffy. Everybody called me Stuffy. He was like, I'm going to need you to go out to Damon's. Remember when Damon's used to be in English Creek? He said, you're going to have to get out the vote and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I just got laid off. I was making $28 an hour. I don't have time to be ashy on a pike. That's not what I'm looking to do. But he was like, you need to go out there. And I went out there reluctantly. And he met me out there. I didn't even get out my car. And he was like, I'm glad you came. He said, you got 2 daughters, right? Take yourself over to the FAA. I'm like, what's the FAA? Now, you drive past that all the time or whatever. I'm like, well, what's the FAA? He was like, go on over there by the airport to the FAA and see this lady. I went the next day to see the lady, and I got hired on the spot. Well, I went from making $28 to $44. So I did not know, and I'm telling you, if you could get into the airport, into the maintenance or whatever, they have something called the Davis-Bacon Act. But what happened is back in the day, Davis-Bacon, the name of some black men or something, that were not getting paid what the union rate was based on race. So the union pay scale was 28, but because of the Davis-Bacon Act, they had to pay me the difference in that money.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was winning. It's just like, but I thought about it. How? And it was because of education and having paper. So I'm always telling people, like, if I had to tell you something, reading is fundamental. And that paper. And I've seen it, and yes, I put it in my post the other day. I've dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
racism, discrimination, sexism. For me, where I recognized it was the other day. I mean, it was holding on to me. I know I was being discriminated based on my sex. But for me, having those pieces of paper along the way, I was able to use something. So I went to go to the FAA, same thing, $44 an hour, no lie, like wallahi. I actually got laid off from there after like 2 years. I was hot, because that's good money, $44 an hour, And out there, if they had a plane coming in, like a governor or senator or something like that, you got to go home. I was like, I don't want to go home at 40. I'm sitting right here. Like, you don't really, when you're in the trade, unless it's something to do with your trade, you're not really working 8 hours doing that trade. Like when I worked out there, I was doing installing fire hydrants on a runway. That's what I was doing out there. And so I got laid off, and I was going around the NAVAC circle out there. And I was like, my phone rang. And I was like, I don't feel like answering this phone. And I answered it. And the lady was like, I want to offer you a job. And I cussed. Because that's, unfortunately. I was like, not right now. But in a bad way, not right now. Why was it the Camden Diocese? I cussed at a nun. Right? I was like, she was like, no, like we want to offer you a job. I'm like, huh? I just got laid off from my job. Can you, I thought that somebody was pranking me, and it was from 856, and I did not apply for this job. I couldn't remember applying for this job, but somebody, one of my mentors was like, you need to be making 6 figures. I mean, I was almost at 6 figures. I was choking 6 figures, right? So she was like, no, you need to be making 6 figures or more. Like you're highly skilled and you should not be wearing a uniform no more, whatever. So I'm like, okay. So the lady's like, can you come for an interview? I went for an interview. I wound up being a plumber for the Camden Diocese in Cape May. They made me their superintendent. So I was like traveling back and forth from Atlantic City to there. I was making cake, and then at that time, a lot of the houses on the west side was getting broken into. And so I had to, I was like, I got to quit this job.
Are.
Yeah.
People I know, still houses still there.
Yes. And, Allah has blessed me, because when I made the decision that I had to walk away from this job, I was walking up the boardwalk, and I walked smack dab into the lady that was the secretary for the union. And, it's not too many women that did the apprenticeship. Her name was Doris. And she was like, Stephanie, don't you have your Black Seal license? I was like, yeah. She said, you need to come see me. And I was like, Doris, I'm working. She was like, you need to come see me. And I was like, I'm going to come see you on Monday. I called out from the Camden Diocese. They hired me at the flagship. And I said, now I'm getting ready to be shaky head Willie, because I'm getting ready to walk away from all this money. But my house kept getting broken into. So I went from making, I think that year I might have made like $106,000, and I took my income down to 36. But I was like, I already know how to survive because I had did it before, and it's better to do it to yourself than to have somebody do it, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure this out. So I went, I think I made like 106, and I went to like $34,000 as a boiler operator there. But I was so happy. I was just in a good spot, and I didn't even stay at the flagship long, because I ain't trying to brag or nothing, but I'm a beast, So the guy who was my boss there or whatever, he was like, this is not for you, because I was doing like 30, 40 calls a day, and the other guys, they would do like 1 or 2, and it wasn't like they was like, oh, she's stupid, she gonna do it. I just had drive, you know what I mean? I know that if you don't, or if you're not using those skills, you lose them, And so the guy there, his name's Frank Salties. He was like, you need to be doing something better. And if I ever had the opportunity to get you more money, I would. And then the Rebel opened up. And his friend, he was friends with the guy who was the director of facilities. And then I interviewed with them and I got that job, you know. And then I was the first facility supervisor that they hired. I didn't do that job really long because I learned the Rebel. I know the Rebel like the back of my hands, you know, so I chose to work on the weekends too. I'm like, I need to learn this building so I can tell you everything about the Rebel, where all their pumps are, where all their elevators are, everything, blueprint readings, everything. But I just was like, I was so proud. Like, I'm just like, I was probably one of the first African-American women hired as a facility supervisor. And I remember, I'm a little girl grown up. I started in the facilities department answering the telephone. And who knew? Somebody just told me no. He said no. And when he said no, thank you. He just put batteries in my back. You know what I mean? So Rebel was my job. I was very shook when it closed because I had went back to school. I did project management and everything. So I constantly was going to school. I never stopped, you know. But when that closed, I was at home, and then I was broken. I was broken, and I'll tell you, my girlfriend Chrissy Selby, you know Chrissy Selby, she's Muslim. She came over my house, and she was like, "Nope, not today." She said, "You know all the stuff you do, you got to stop doing it for free." Because I always share. I always was doing people's taxes. Whatever I knew, I always shared. Because I just think that we all should have a seat at the table. You know, not never wanting to profit off of things, just like it's just in me. You know, I don't think if I had a granular of knowledge in my head, it ain't no good if I haven't shared it with you, and I haven't shared it with her. You know what I mean? And that's why we're still in the same situation, because we stopped